Welcome to the deep dive. So you've sent us some really great sources looking into, how we actually learn.
Yeah, some fascinating stuff.
And today we're diving into this kind of surprising idea that one of the best ways to really get a grip on something yourself is to prepare to teach it.
Or even actually teach it, yeah. And you pointed us to a really solid piece of research on this.
Right, this meta-analysis is from the Educational Psychology Review, I believe.
That's the one. And a meta-analysis, just as a quick reminder, it basically pulls together the results from a whole load of different studies on the same topic.
Gives you the bigger picture.
Exactly. So it gives us a much more reliable view of this learning by teaching idea. Uncovers some things you might miss in just one study.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
let's pull out the key insights from this research, the things that can, genuinely help you, the listener, learn better.
Yeah, whether you're trying to get your head around something new or maybe prepping for a meeting where you need to explain things.
This should be really useful. And here's a little teaser, something that jumped out at me. Just thinking you'll have to teach something. That alone seems to change how you learn it right from the get-go.
It really does. It's quite remarkable.
Okay, let's get into it then. Where do we start?
Well, let's start with the headline finding. The researchers crunched the numbers from 39 different studies.
Okay.
And overall, yes, teaching something after you've had a bit of time to learn it yourself, it does give your own understanding a boost.
A measurable boost.
A measurable, statistically significant positive effect, yeah. It means, compared to just studying normally, taking that extra step to teach tends to help you lock it in better.
Okay, so it's not just a feeling, there's actual data behind it.
Yeah.
But how big a deal is this effect, practically speaking?
Mhm.
Like, are we talking a minor tweak or a major leap?
That's a good question. The overall effect, it's what we probably call a small to medium positive effect. So it's real, it's noticeable,
Okay.
but it's not like, a magic bullet that instantly doubles your understanding. It's a solid advantage.
Right. A worthwhile advantage.
Definitely. But, and this is where it gets really interesting, that advantage isn't always the same size.
Ah, okay. So it depends on something.
It really depends on something. They found a key factor, a moderator, they call it, that massively changes the outcome.
Don't leave us hanging. What is it?
It's this thing called teaching expectancy.
Which we touched on.
Yeah,
That's about whether you expected to teach.
exactly that. Did the people in these studies go into the learning part knowing or believing they'd have to teach it afterwards? Or was the teaching part sprung on them later?
And that made a difference.
It's a huge difference. It was actually the most significant factor they found.
Wow. Okay, so break that down. What did the numbers show?
So get this. When people studied the material knowing they were going to have to teach it later,
Yeah.
the benefit they got from actually doing the teaching was pretty substantial. Nearly a medium effect size, a clear, solid boost to their learning.
Okay, makes sense. Prepare properly, teach well, learn well.
Right. But here's the kicker. For the people who studied the material with no expectation of teaching it, and then were asked to teach it anyway, the learning benefit they got from that teaching was basically zero.
Zero. Really?
Statistically non-significant. Almost no measurable advantage over just studying.
That's incredible. So the act of teaching itself doesn't do much unless your brain was already primed during the learning phase by the thought of teaching.
That seems to be the strong implication, yeah.
Yeah.
That anticipation, that expectancy, it changes how you approach the initial learning.
It's like if you know you have to give directions later, you pay way more attention to the landmarks when you first travel the route.
Perfect analogy. You're not just passively taking it in, you're actively thinking, okay, how would I explain this? What are the key steps? What might confuse someone?
You start structuring it differently in your head.
Right. You look for the core logic, the connections, you anticipate questions. The researchers mentioned it's like packing your suitcase more carefully if you know customs might inspect it.
Huh. Okay, yeah, I get that. You organize better.
You organize, you check for gaps, you make sure everything's clear in your own mind first,
Right.
which of course deepens your understanding.
Okay, so this expectancy is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But that brings up a question for me.
Go for it.
Is the benefit all down to that preparation phase? Like, if you study expecting to teach, but then you don't actually teach, do you still get the full boost? Or does the teaching act itself still add something on top?
That's a really sharp question. And yeah, the researchers were curious about that too. Does just preparing give you the same edge?
Right.
So they did a separate, smaller meta-analysis. This one looked at 14 studies that directly compared people who studied with teaching expectancy against people who just studied normally with no teaching involved at all.
Okay, and what came out of that?
Well, they found a significant positive effect there, too. Just studying with the expectation of teaching does boost your learning compared to just plain studying.
Ah, okay. So the preparation mindset itself is valuable.
Definitely valuable. It shows that a big chunk of the benefit comes from that preparatory mindset, that different way of engaging with the material initially.
But I sense a but coming.
Well, if you compare the size of that effect just from the expectation with the larger effect found when people both expected to teach and actually taught,
Ah, okay.
it suggests that while the expectation does a lot, the act of actually verbalizing, structuring, and delivering the explanation, the teaching itself likely adds another layer of benefit. It helps consolidate it further.
So it's like a 1-2 punch.
Oh.
The expectation gets you most of the way there, and the teaching act finishes the job.
That seems like a really good way to put it. The study used the term catalyzes. Preparing to teach catalyzes the learning you get from actually teaching.
Catalyzes, like in chemistry.
Yeah.
Speeds things up, makes it more effective.
Exactly. The expectation primes your brain, it gets all the pieces in place, so when you actually go to explain it, that process is far more effective for cementing your own knowledge than it would be if you hadn't prepared with that intention.
It makes the teaching act itself more potent for the teacher's learning.
Precisely. It helps you find the gaps in your own thinking as you prepare, prompting you to fix them before you even try to explain.
This is making a lot of sense.
Oh.
Okay, let's pivot to the practical side. For everyone listening, how can they use this? What are the concrete takeaways?
Right, the so what factor. I think the biggest takeaway is about mindset.
Okay.
Whenever you're tackling something new, reading an article, learning a new skill, whatever, try consciously to adopt the mindset that you'll need to explain it clearly to someone else later.
Even if you don't actually have someone lined up to teach.
Even if it's just a mental exercise, just approaching the material as if you'll have to teach it. Think about it like prepping for a really important meeting versus just casually reading some notes.
You engage differently.
Totally differently. You automatically start thinking, what's the main point here? How does this bit connect to that bit? How would I simplify this concept? What examples would make it clear?
You're mentally outlining a lesson plan, almost.
You really are. You're anticipating the challenges of explaining it, which forces you to understand it more deeply yourself. You're identifying potential confusing points and figuring out how to clarify them in your head.
Okay, so adopt the teaching mindset. What else?
Well, if you do get a chance to actually explain something, take it.
Don't shy away from it.
Absolutely not. Explain that concept to a colleague who's struggling, walk a friend through how something works, even just summarizing the key points of an article out loud to yourself, pretending you're explaining it.
Like talking to the rubber duck on your desk.
Hey, whatever works. That process of verbalizing, of structuring the explanation for an audience, even an imaginary one, this research strongly suggests that's going to solidify your own understanding significantly.
It reinforces the learning that started with the expectation. Yeah, I remember trying to explain some programming concept to a junior developer once.
Yeah.
And just figuring out how to phrase it simply made me realize I understood it way better than I thought. Or maybe forced me to understand it better.
That's it, exactly. Preparing for it and then doing it, it's that cycle. It really clicks with this research.
Now, you mentioned earlier the researchers looked at other factors, potential confounds, things that might muddy the waters.
Right, they were thorough. They checked if the results changed depending on, say, how sophisticated the learning strategies were in the comparison groups.
Like, were the just studying groups using really basic methods?
Yeah, or were they using more advanced ones? They also looked at how the teaching happened. Was it written down or was it spoken unscripted?
And did those things matter much for this expectancy effect?
Turns out, not really. The powerful effect of expecting to teach held up regardless of those other factors.
Why is that important to know?
It just adds confidence to the main finding. It tells us that this teaching expectancy benefit isn't just some weird side effect of, say, only comparing it to really poor study habits, or that it only works if you write things down.
It seems to be a pretty robust independent effect then.
Exactly. The expectation itself seems to be the real key.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the big aha moment really is that interaction, isn't it? Between expecting to teach and then actually teaching.
Yeah, it's not just one or the other. That expectation seems to act like a powerful cognitive switch. It changes your whole approach from passive reception to active preparation for sharing.
It makes you engage differently right from the start. Look for connections, organize things.
Nail down the core ideas so you could explain them clearly if asked.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on. Think about the last time you really truly got a complex idea. Is it possible that, maybe even subconsciously, you were already thinking about how you might explain it to someone else?
That's a great reflective question.
And how could intentionally using this teaching expectancy idea change how you tackle the next tricky thing you need to learn? Something to consider.
Definitely. It's a simple mindset shift, but the research suggests it could be a surprisingly powerful tool in your learning toolkit. So embrace that inner teacher.
Couldn't have said it better. Here's to making our learning journeys just that little bit more effective.